This is Skeptic Haven. Let's talk.
Hello everyone and welcome to Skeptic Haven and Let's Talk. We're going to try and get some calls tonight and answer them the best we can. Hi Cynthia, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Cindy?
I'm doing great. I had a pretty interesting day, so
You
it's
did.
going okay.
You did. Very good. Yeah. And then,
How
and I'm
about you?
it's been a pretty low key day. Part of it was, chasing the baby, doing some work behind the scenes and things of that nature. But, I'm very excited to be here, especially this is my first time being on Let's Talk.
Me too. So
Yeah.
hopefully we're not going to miss this too much. Yeah, this is a show produced by Skeptic Haven, a channel that I'm pretty sure that you're already everyone subscribed to, that you all already have liked and shared the video. And so uh, between calls, we're going to talk about a topic that I very much like. In fact, I picked it.
Yes.
And it's American exceptionalism. And we're going to talk about the fact that there's not only an American exceptionalism, but also a French exceptionalism. And I'm pretty sure there's also a British one.
Mm. And if
Um,
and if you guys are in those particular countries or come from France, I come from France. That sounds like, what was that show, The Coneheads, when they were coming from France? Bad joke. And then also England, if you come from those areas as well. And if you want to talk about, I call it either European adjacent or European exceptionalism. I did have coffee today. We can all talk about it and what that really means.
sure. So let's talk about what is exceptionalism in the first place without talking about countries. So basically, it's the belief that as a country, you are better, at least on some aspects, than other countries. And the fact that you're better justifies the concept or the shared idea that basically you don't need to look around because you're already the best, so you don't need to look for clues or anything else outside your own country.
Mhm.
Do you agree with that definition?
For the most part, I think that one of the things that I will also add specifically to that is that it also can cause some other issues, specifically with xenophobia, also other isms that would keep other societies into power, because, and also it touts a this fake notion of a meritocracy, which it doesn't exist. So, if that's okay, I take I take your definition and add a little bit up for 200, Alex, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So we have a caller, Bree Badger Zeezer, sorry, in Iowa. So let's talk to Bree. Hey Bree,
Hello?
how are you doing? Hello.
Bree, are you there?
Hi.
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 Is
How are
the
you
audio
doing?
not working again?
Yeah. No, we can hear you perfectly. So you say
I
in the
am
chat.
here.
Yeah, we can hear you. So
Okay. I'm not hearing you through Calling Studio, but if I unmute YouTube, I can hear you.
Okay, so mute YouTube and just talk to us on the phone. because there's going to be like a delay and it confuses everybody.
Although there's a pretty big delay. So
there is a pretty big delay, but we'll work through it.
Yeah, the problem is I don't hear you through call-in studio, so I can't hear you.
All right, so but you called in, right?
Yeah, we hold on. Let me return you to the queue and see if we can do something about this.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try again.
Hello.
Okay.
Is it working now?
We can hear you. How about you?
Doesn't sound like it.
We can hear you, but it's going to be a delay. Are you still there?
Yeah, I don't think she can hear us.
Oh, because she muted. I asked her to mute. Well, maybe if we get to her question, get to their question, then we can, and then we can just go from there. So can you
not sure how to proceed here.
So they say there are two things the French are better at than Americans. Things everyone's better at don't count. I don't really see what they're saying here.
Okay. So maybe Bree, can you kind of expand on what you meant about your statement?
So the two things that the French are better at than Americans is rioting at the drop of a hat, like for anything, and the other thing is their firefighters fight the cops, which is just awesome.
Fighters fight the cops.
Fight the cops. Well, I don't know, Cindy. You're from France.
You want to corroborate that? Come from? It happened once, I think, at a protest. So I'm not sure we can create a rule out of that. But we're definitely better at protesting than the US. That's for sure. Protesting and complaining in general. I think we are better at this than anyone here.
I don't know, Cindy. I may have to stop on that, because we pretty damn good at protesting and complaining in the US. Now, if the government would actually give in to or comply to some of our complaints, that's a whole different story. But we will protest and we will complain.
Yeah. One thing France has that one of the things France has that the US doesn't and lacks, in my opinion, is strong unions.
I will agree with that.
Yeah. In France, it's even the other extreme, where they have way too much power compared to their representativity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an issue specifically that we have in the United States, that you've had unions that's been around for a very long time and amassed the power, and to the point where they're pretty good at like swinging elections and maybe doing a little bit pay for play. But as far as like representing the worker, that a lot of times gets lost. In my previous position, I was in a union, but we had but it was absolutely necessary for us to organize, because we had so many problems in the organization, especially in management. So it was mostly like us as the workers actually like running the union so that we can actually have representation, which is something that the unions are supposed to do. And in general, if unions operate in that facet, then you're fine. But when it gets to the point where you get like a heavy top, it's it's the thing about absolute power corrupts absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's the problem with overpowered unions is that sometimes they will defend someone at any cost, even if that person is toxic to the enterprise or some people in the enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. So I see a comment from Dan D. I heard that the French are good at kissing and the Americans are fighting to marry children. So for the second part, I would say that, yeah, some Americans are fighting to marry children. Some of them are even maybe not fighting, but hoping that lynching and segregation are coming back. I don't know if you heard the recording from a sheriff.
We're talking about that next week on nonprofits.
Oh, well, yeah,
Yes, we are.
that's definitely appropriate because
yeah, we're going to be talking about that on nonprofits.
that was something entirely
Yeah.
something else entirely. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
but we did cover specifically some lawmakers on states that want to keep child marriage laws on the books.
Yeah.
I think that is Iowa one of those states. I think it's either Iowa or Idaho is one of those states where the legislatures, the GOP specifically, did not want to remove child marriage laws, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
insane.
And he said it's because I know some. How did he say that? Yeah. Do you know some 12-year-old that are married? Because I do, and they're all still married right now.
Yeah.
As if that was a good excuse or a good explanation.
Yeah, no,
That-
sir,
that-
that's weird. That's weird. We should not big up that at all. Like, oh
no.
yeah, my grandmother got married at 12 years old and she's still married. No, that's called
Yeah,
child
yeah.
abuse. Yeah, no, we don't want that.
No.
Oh my gosh, I don't know the hell. I had a whole conversation, Cindy, today with my with an electrician that's coming to do some work in my house, and he was, and for a little bit he was kind of going down a rabbit hole of conspiracy theory a little bit with me, and was telling his kids that they need to stock up on water and canned foods and basically build yourself a bunker because things specifically in the United States is just about to go haywire, especially with some of the depression of the American dollar. And I'm like, and at first, I was just like, that sounds a bit conspiracy theory with me. I don't necessarily think that that's a bit extreme, but sometimes when I hear some of these stories that we cover, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was on the nonprofits earlier today, I said I don't understand how the US is not in the middle of a revolution right now, considering everything that's happening.
Well, we are in a bit. You do have different movements popping up and definitely trying to get their voice heard. I think it's just that, as we always discuss, that we still have this minority in the government that is very organized and has been doing that work for a very long time in order to basically try to turn the United States into a theocracy. And and it's not like they popped up overnight. They've been working for over 50 years. So
50 years of gerrymandering, voter suppression, mostly that. I don't understand how this. Well, I understand because, the U.S. is a federal country, so the states have certain power, the federal government has the rest. So it's always hard to find a balance between the two. Like Europe has been trying to build itself since the 50s. And we are also struggling to find that balance. Like it's different from the state because it's different countries, not states that have been created, not artificially, but almost sometimes.
Yeah.
It's countries with hundreds or thousands of years of existence,
Yeah.
and so letting go this part of common leadership that they need to let go,
Mm-hmm.
that's very hard for many countries. So that's why Europe has so much trouble creating the central government and the strength that it needs to really have an impact. I mean, Europe manages to do some things very positively every once in a while, like customer protection, like data protection, like health protection. There are a lot of this that we have in Europe that have been built by the entire government,
Mm-hmm.
the European government.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's still very hard to find this balance.
Yeah, I would say so too. I wanted to put up something that Puck said. Hey Puck, been a minute, buddy.
Hey,
How
Puck.
you doing?
Yeah.
It's been a minute. But one of the things that that Puck said specifically is that we're not in a revolution because one, we're too big, and two, the separation of ideologies isn't based on geography.
It is in a way.
Yeah, I mean, like, okay, so what I would say to that, as far as like ideologies, we do have a concentration, I would say, of like that. As Cindy, I'm going to use your word, Cindy, Christofascism. Mostly concentrated in areas where you have like a stronger leaning conservative thought pattern, and a lot of that is in the South, of course. I really have seen like Christofascism, Christian nationalism, etc. Really birth out of white supremacy, and basically using some of these sentiments in order for them to concentrate power. It's not a new sentiment itself, but we see this particular ideology more prevalent in other portions of the states than some others. California has a tendency to be a little bit more liberal. Illinois, northern Illinois, where I'm at, is a little bit more liberal. But then you got Wisconsin, which is more conservative, more red. Even though we actually have like a new judge that's very liberal leaning that got elected into Wisconsin Supreme Court, so big on that. But we still have these ideologies that seems to be more concentrated geographically in states than others. So I think that's something that we have to consider as well.
Yeah. Puck, you can call if you want.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, please do. I think that would be cool if you can actually call in and we can talk it out.
Yeah. So let's come back to exceptionalism, and you mentioned a little bit earlier. One of the biggest impacts of that is xenophobia. It's because you think that your country is better than the others, then you think that individually you're better than the individual people of other countries, which means that you don't want them into your country because they're not good to work, they're not good to be around you in your street, and so that's one of the biggest issues that stem from exceptionalism. And the other another one is what I talked in the introduction is the fact that sometimes you don't even realize that you have an issue because that's how we've always done, and since we're the best, then that's the best way to do it, apparently. So you have some when you look at for example what's his name, last week tonight with John Oliver. Every week he has this show showing something that's for me as someone who doesn't live in the US, it's most of the time it's appalling.
Yeah.
Like the last one was on HOAs and the fact that they're allowed so many things and some of them are illegal or even anti-constitutional and they still do it. That very idea to me was mind-boggling. I mean,
Yeah.
how is that even possible?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to see that one on HOAs. It did come up on my feed and I was meaning to watch it but sometimes like, I have to be careful because if I watch John Oliver, I start getting mad. And, and I'm just like, I need to go out through my day without being ready to stab everybody. But yeah, but I do appreciate his content, especially like bringing up stuff that, that's not widely talked about and that we didn't even know was a thing. But yeah, like a lot of these particular organizations like HOAs, like all these other things have amassed, power and in some cases and like the body politic of America has allowed them to do it. And unfortunately, we had in America, I would say in the past like 20 to 25 years, like systematic deregulation of different systems. So we don't necessarily have the overreach to kind of snap, to pull people back in order for us to say, no, you can't do that. Right. I mean, I even think about like how churches are able to operate for so long, get so huge because like this is the land where we invented mega churches
and so political as well.
Yes. And it's kind of like, let's just throw out everything about the Establishment Clause. That never existed, and I mean, you even have people like this in our government that's saying that, oh, that's not what they meant when they read that. I said, yeah, it is. They wanted, they were tired of the overreach of the church in political affairs, and they decided to keep those particular entities separate, and that's why it's in our very First Amendment. But but we just want to read over that. We just, that never happened. La 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 la.
Yeah, and Texas just voted a law to impose the 10 Commandments in every school.
Yes, they did. I know that. Shout out to Will Judy in Houston. He started an organization called Secular Houston, where they're in the process of trying to fight that. I know that I believe that American Atheists actually are on that as well, and so is Freedom from Religion Foundation. So shout out to Furfur to
as
really,
always.
Yes, as always. Dan Barker, Annie Laurie, you guys rock. Yeah, because like that is just like so egregious that they would do that. And I'm even calling on Lucian from the Satanic Temple, say like, okay, well, if you're gonna have 10 commandments in every school, we need to go have the Edict of Satan in every school as well.
Yeah, that was where I was going.
Yeah,
I think sometimes it would be much faster and much cost efficient to fund the Satanic Temple to ask for the same privilege, and it would go away very easy, and very fast. Yeah,
that because it's the same thing that happened when they wanted to display the 10 Commandments in front of a court building. I forgot which state it was in, but as soon as they say, okay, well, we want a statue of Baphomet.
Yeah,
and they say, okay, we just get rid of that particular slab of stone with the 10 Commandments on. I was like, yeah, I bet you will.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's speaking again about exceptionalism. It's this idea that Christianity is the only religion in the US, and it's the best religion and the only religion that exists. It doesn't even cross their minds sometimes that there are other religions or people without religions. And yeah, it's mind-boggling.
Well, the whole thing about Christianity is that it lends itself to being the right religion. So, like, we will acknowledge other religions exist, but they're not the right ones. They will put you on a fast track to hell with burning gasoline draws. You know.
Well, they all say that basically. Islam says the same. Uh, Judaism maybe less,
Mhm.
but still they all believe that they are the right ones. So yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah, it is. It is. But I think that if we wanted to kind of, we have like some questions that's from that we have gathered from the interwebs. Maybe we can go ahead and discuss some of those. What do you think?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. So let's just go this one today. Oh, okay. Um, okay, so this is interesting. Today's Skeptic Haven's polls is, and it kind of, I guess, goes in line with what we were discussing. Is the United States the country you would choose to move to now? 13% said yes, and 87% said no.
I like to speak to those 13%. I need a word with them.
Are we shocked by these numbers?
Yeah, I think it's high. 13% today. I think it's pretty high.
That they would move to the United States? That they would
Yeah,
want
I
to
think
move to?
it's too high. Yeah.
You think it's too high? Oh, wow.
13, yes, I think it's too high.
13%? Okay.
Considering the situation now, I mean, if you're, yeah, okay, you can maybe choose to move to New York or to California, maybe. Yeah, I would get that, but still, this constant fight, this constant culture war everywhere you go, and the lack of protection of any kind. I mean, for a European to want to go to the US, I mean, to me, it's unthinkable.
Well, I think that we have to also consider, like, maybe it would be less prone for Europeans to want to come and relocate to the United
Yeah.
States. However, like, there's other, of course, like
Yeah.
when we were just talking about, there's other countries as
Yes.
well,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, like, and as Puck even like pointed out, United States is pretty big, and I understand, like, especially, I'm a kid of an immigrant. The whole thing was come to the United States and build a better life, right? And even though, like, my mom said that she really didn't want to come here. I should ask her about that. she said that she really didn't want to come here. She wanted to go to England instead, but she ended up coming here. And the main reason was because my grandfather, her father, was here. But I do see why people would still try to pack up their wares, depending on where they are, to see if they can just, like, find a way to make it here some kind of way, because there's still a large and strong propaganda of, again, this meritocracy in the United States, that, hey, if you can, like New York, you can make it here, you can make it anywhere type stuff.
Yeah.
So, I think that's still, in the back of people's minds. But at the same time, as you said, I agree, like, the culture war here is ridiculous, and it's to the point where it's influencing law.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know for me, and I have, like, thought about going to the South, because Illinois can be cold, and and all this other stuff, but at the same time, I'd be like, they're eroding women's rights left and right, and also in other institutions are suffering for it as well. And then, Florida decided that, hey, we don't want to teach Black history, even though we don't want to deny Black history, because it is American history. But we don't want to teach it in a way where it will make white children feel bad about slavery.
Yeah. We looked at history, and we saw that very specific era in in Germany in the 30s, and we thought it was great. So we decided to recreate the exact same thing here
Yeah.
in Florida
Yeah.
for your opportunities and pleasure and happiness over here.
Yeah. That sounds really
Yeah,
great. Yeah,
yeah,
that's you see how it ended for that fascist. I just want to say that.
yeah.
Yep.
Just
Go ahead.
just for the record,
Mhm.
today, like a few hours ago, the House, I mean the federal House voted through party lines to forbid any, I think it was any treatment for trans kids. I think.
I know that Oklahoma did that. It wasn't no, it wasn't Oklahoma.
No, I'm talking about the federal government
Oh,
right now.
the
That
federal
that
government.
yeah,
Okay.
that
Yeah.
happened
Mhm.
a few hours ago. So
Mhm.
of course it's not going to go through the Senate, and if it does go through the Senate, Biden will never sign it.
No, it won't.
But
But we're
still,
just so close to that happening. I mean, like I
yes,
forgot the other state that basically Missouri did this.
yeah,
Severely limited a gender affirming care not only for children but for adults too.
yes,
Yeah, I was like, oh my goodness, I cannot believe that. To the point where you want to limit a gender affirming care for people who actually are had the wherewithal to even make that decision if that's what they want to do. And to the point where they were even eroding hormonal treatments and other gender affirming treatments are for a person that's on Medicaid. Working with transgender people, I know that that was the only way that they were actually able to like access their hormones was to get them through Medicaid. So yeah, it's really terrible. I mean, like, and then I know that one of the people who was like she pushing that bill is was saying that oh, puberty blockers are not they have like deadly side effects against children. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. I said puberty blockers have been FDA approved for over 30 years, and they weren't just used just to go ahead and just stop the development of you know of different body parts. Like this was actually used to treat testicular cancer. It was used to treat breast cancer. It was used to treat endometriosis. I mean, and even it was also used to slow the process of puberty in in children when they start to develop a little bit too quickly. I remember my mom told me, she said, "Yeah, I was trying to put your nieces on puberty blockers." And I was like, "Why?" And then she said, "Because they were developing too quickly." And I was like, "Oh,
I didn't know
okay."
that was the thing.
Yeah, I didn't either, but what can I say? So I
Yeah,
mean, yeah, but so these particular and they're basically just like hormonal treatments, stuff that we are very much so used to for synthetic hormone treatments. And then if you stop it, they're 100% reversible. I mean, like you'll
yeah,
start to develop naturally per se, if you
yes.
stop the treatment. So I
Yeah. So let's. We have a caller,
oh
Phil
right.
from LA, who would like to talk about exceptionalism. Hi, Phil.
Oh, oh,
How are you
hi.
doing?
Uh, oh, pretty good, pretty good. I have a question about France, and this is kind of out of ignorance because we hear, obviously, I'm in the United States. We hear a lot about U.S. exceptionalism, but I'd like to learn a little something about French because I mean the stereotype that we get over here is that the French people are kind of stuck up. They think that great of themselves. And I remember seeing some movies and documentaries about the French being a very open and liberal society in the early 1900s. And that's about all I know. So do you know how or if it's really true that the French think of them as an exceptional country?
In certain areas, yes. So, yeah, France has a very long history, and for at least 5 centuries, there was this big competition between the UK and, well, the British Empire and the French Empire. But today, the exceptionalism is more cultural. Like we try to develop our language as much as possible. Every country in Africa that speaks French, they are part of a language group, I could call it that way, and they do meetings regularly. They try to promote it, and not only the language is seen as a soft power, as it is in the US as well, but it's also this idea that French is a better language. Sometimes you can feel people thinking that way, and because English is too easy, or English is too simple, or this kind of thing, and we shouldn't allow everyone to speak English. We should promote French as well. Why is it always English when we speak with other nations, etc., etc., etc.? You know, in diplomacy, the official language is French. Hi, Eric Coalson.
What do you mean by? Sorry, what do you mean by soft power? I'm not that familiar with that term.
Soft power is a way to extend your influence without actual politics. Like having people speak the same language as you facilitates the idea that they are somehow part of your empire in some way, like the Commonwealth for the UK. The soft power is that the extending your power through other means than politics or war, like culture, like language, like those kind of things. Like McDonald's is part of the US soft power, for example, we could say that. TV shows as well, those kind of things. The other aspect of French exceptionalism is in culture, and like, for example, we have this idea that French films are different, in a different categories than the rest of the movies, you know. And we have our special set of laws to protect French movies in cinemas. Like, for example, in any country, like in Belgium, for example, after a movie comes out to the cinema, it takes 3 months to be on any platform like Disney Plus or Netflix or whatever. In France, it's 6 months, because it is to protect at the same time the cinemas, but also the financing of the French culture. So there are taxes that are directed to French movies. So there's this idea that our culture, especially our movies and our music as well, there are laws to play on I think it's on any public radios. They have to play at least a certain percentage of French music. So that's the exceptionalism in France. It's this idea that we have this culture that's special, and it needs to be protected, even through legislation.
Well, in the United States, it's like there's people seem to think that they are literally just better people. I mean, I don't know if better in every way, better in whatever way. But the way you described at the beginning was France trying to sort of extend national power or influence kind of a thing. But I'm wondering if the people actually think that they are better in some inherent way, like the U.S., even though that's not particularly justified. But
we have those people in France as well. Yeah, there are some people, and they're mostly right-wing leaning, as in the US.
In the United States,
Yeah. Except the big difference is that instead of having the contempt and the hatred directed towards black people, in France it's more like northern African people, like Algeria, Morocco, Egypt, the brown people, because there's a history between France and Algeria. But yeah, it's I think it's a matter of proximity and history. But yeah, there's definitely this idea that yeah, brown people are like Arabs, are as they are called in French. They're less than us because they're thieves. They're these kind of things.
Hmm.
You can trust them. You can have them as friends if you want, but yeah, don't trust them too much, because in the end there's still those people.
Yeah,
Hmm.
those
Anything
people.
Is anything shifting in modern times in terms of feeling exceptional or not? I mean, because there's more globalization going on. So I would think as a general rule that globalization would help people at least be aware of others enough to sort of question their superiority, if only because they're learning about other cultures. Is anything shifting in France?
I couldn't say because I haven't been in France for 6 years, and even though I still look at the media, there are different currents that are, let's say, contradicting each other. Like there's the rise of the right and the far right in all Europe. There's there's this idea with the younger people that they're more European than French. We see that in the population as well. There's definitely a more open and tolerant generation coming. So I don't know which of these movements is stronger than the others and how they cancel each other out, or I couldn't say, to be honest.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to answer Bree's comment because that fired me up a lot. So France has a very, very good soccer team. Like in the last World Cup, we ended up in the finals, and in France and even here in Belgium, there were a lot of comments saying that, yeah, how come there are so many black people in the French team? Because basically, probably more than half of the people on the team are black, and that question it fires me up pretty quickly because first of all, it's basic racism, so that's the first reason. But second of all, it's asking the wrong question. It's how come there are not more white people in the team? How come on so many positions the best player is always black? How come? And so if the more you ask those questions and the more you get into the fact that soccer is the most popular sport, so obviously the more popular classes are going to play it and see it as a chance to get out of poverty and everything else. So obviously the people who are living in the more poor areas are going to be overrepresented. So maybe that's one of the reasons.
Do you know what percentage of blacks are in the population over there? Roughly?
No, but I could look into it. That's that's another problem of French exceptionalism, the religious side. So in 1905, France voted a very, very strong law of separation between church and state. Very, very, very strong. And since then, France has become very, very, very much secular. But the problem with this law is that it went with other legislations. Like, for example, you cannot make a poll or a census based on religion, based on skin color, based on origin. You cannot do that. So you cannot know with precision the demographics of your own country.
That's problematic.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and that's
Double-edged.
problematic.
Kind of a
Yes,
double-edged sword.
Yes, exactly. On one hand,
because if you want to help a minority group to sort of assimilate and not become a minority group, you kind of need to know that they're there.
Yeah.
Or instead of saying assimilate, we can definitely use that data to see where their social and economic positionality is in a country, so that if there needs to be more services doled out to one group over another, then we need to know that data. And that comes from census records. I mean, like, specifically here in the United States, there's a strong push to disaggregate even data between who we call Black in the United States. So we would have like disaggregation basically with Black Americans that have been here since chattel slavery versus Black immigrants that come from different countries. Because what we have found, even from cursory data, is that the social and economic positionality is very different. So how are you able to help a group specifically if you don't have that data, or if you're just putting everybody into one pot and we're just like saying like, okay, everybody get services equally? Well, equality does not reach equity, right? So we have to make sure that that data is disaggregated. But yeah, I mean, like, I get the whole thing about like trying to create one country regardless of background and race and things of that nature, but we still have to understand, not just here, but we have a long history of oppression between groups, whether they were in Europe, whether they were in Africa, whether they were in the United States. And it's not always going to be as easy for one group to catch up with another if they don't have the playing field equalized amongst everybody. So we got to know where they're at in order for us to be able to get them to catch up.
Yeah. It's exactly the same issue as you have when people say, yeah, I don't see color. Well, maybe you don't see it, but if you don't see it, how are you going to tackle the institutionalism?
Yes.
So to answer your question, Phil, the data we have says that between 2.5 and 7.5 of the population is Black, which is a huge disparity.
Pretty low, because I think in U.S. and Cynthia, you can correct me, you probably know better than I did. It's what, 8-9% in the U.S.
No, 13%.
Oh, no,
yeah,
13%.
Yeah, about 13%.
Oh, no, you're right. So I guess I just wanted to finish by saying, throughout my 2 cents, that the whole concept of exceptionalism seems really odd to me, because it's like if you're, we understand sort of the human nature to be competitive. And I think of like people that are rooting for their sports team. If you like your people because they're your team and you root for them, but here's this other set of people over here rooting for theirs. So to think that my people are better than your people sort of misses the point, because it seems like at the base level you should like the sport, right? Mm-hmm. Which means you should like all the people, but you just have your favorite specific ones or something. So some of the strife at the level we have in the name of exceptionalism seems oddly unjustified to me. So.
Yeah, I agree. And to pick up on that metaphor you're using, even if your team is better today, it probably won't be next year or in 2 years or 5 years ago. So yeah, this idea that you are inherently better, that's nonsense.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at the Cubs. Look at Chicago Cubs, and we can tell that's the same. That's the thing, right?
Yeah. A lot of prayers went into taking 100 years for them to win, right?
108.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much. Thank you both.
Thank you for your question.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye. There's an interesting point I'd like to address. The message by Hidden Tech Gems says, I can point out, no, it's not this one.
Oh, okay.
It's the previous one. I'm unsure how to break people from their exceptionalism.
Okay.
I think Phil answered that earlier. It's showing other cultures, basically, and showing that what you do, just like John Oliver, showing them that what you do is not necessarily better than what they do or what they have. Like there's on YouTube, there's a whole trend of European response to American saying X, or there's one in particular that I've been looking at, and yeah, basically it's that German guy reacting to what the Americans do, and you see the biggest surprise, and I think it comes from the idea that this American exceptionalism, it doesn't exist only in the US.
Mm-hmm.
It's transpired everywhere. Like in every movie, the US saves the world. So I think the entire world internalized this, and so when we see that they don't even have the basic necessities in some places, like Texas and their power grid, like the Flint and the water, like those very, very simple things, it creates the cognitive dissonance that's sometimes very, very impressive to watch. But yeah,
Louds County, Alabama, and the hookworms inside there, and the UN calling that area worse than a third world country right here in the United States. I also wanted to highlight what Aaron said real quick, because I think it goes into Hidden Gems previous comment, where it says the best vaccine for exceptionalism or racism or even classism even is exposure. I think it's part of that, but not only exposure, but I also believe it has to be a commitment to tear these institutions down. Because I think that a lot of times like when we have like large conversations about specifically African Americans in the United States and where the wealth gap is, this information is known, but we really don't have actual policies to address it. It's still the same thing about lift yourself up by your own bootstraps type thing, instead of like the entities that created the problem not necessarily stepping in to fix the problem. So if we not only know the issue, we also have to be committed to fixing the issue as well. And until we do that, we're still going to actually have these institutions that are ran on exceptionalism a thing, unfortunately.
So what do you think would be the main step to address this, to make sure there's to create this movement, this motion to tear down those institutions?
Yeah, I think that part of I am of the mind that it's not going to be the old guard that does it. I think that a lot of the older people that are okay with the status quo, like the boomer generation, the silent generation that's still around, they're not going to do it. You're going to have some of them that want to, but I think that a lot of times a lot of the older generations are kind of stuck in their ways. I definitely think that this is going to be a movement of young people. I see mostly millennials and generational Zs, Gen Zs actually being the ones that actually go after these institutions and tear them down. And I think a lot of it has to do with, switching ideologies and worldview. Now we are in an era where information is available at your fingertips. You can learn so much about different cultures just by turning on the internet. You don't even have to leave your own home. I know that, like, for this past, I would say, like 6 months, I have been going down my own rabbit hole of watching Korean mukbangs. Don't ask me why, I just have. But that particular rabbit hole has made me so curious about the culture, so curious about their history, so curious about, because like one of the things that I would see a lot in these videos is spam. Like, why are they eating spam so much? And then like that caused me to do a bit, cursory research about, hey, the reason why this is because like American GIs actually left spam during World War II when they were actually in the country, and they just adopted that particular food in their diet. Same thing with fried chicken. I did not know that Koreans, especially South Koreans, love them some fried chicken. I don't even eat chicken, but they do. And I was like, why is this such a big thing about fried chicken? Come to find out, during World War II, that American GIs actually taught Korean chefs how to make fried chicken. And it has been part of their diet ever since. So, and like I said, this is just for me just being curious. And I think that, and of course I'm a what do they call us? Zennials, in between millennial and Generation X. So I so like that's just me. But like a lot of these Generation Zs and millennials are more open to ideas. They have a tendency to be more socialistic in their politics as well. And you actually are seeing some of them running for office. So I have more so my focus and hope in them, and especially getting them educated so that when they do become the leaders of tomorrow, that they will actually tackle the problems that we are facing with the institutions that are oppressive today.
So there's one specific topic that I'm always fascinated when I look at the politics in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
is the basically de facto two-party system.
Yeah.
So in 1958, there were some troubles in France, and General de Gaulle, he was given basically all powers to write down a new constitution.
Mm-hmm.
And so he did that, and the constitution was voted for, and then so we had the Fifth Republic. And during this time, he said something to the effect of, "Parties are the death of democracy."
Mm-hmm.
And every time I say this quote, I say, "And the least parties you have, the faster you lose democracy."
I agree.
And so, do you think it is possible for the US to change that and to get more actual parties? I know there's a Libertarian Party, but it's like they're non-existent in effect. So,
yeah. What needs to happen specifically with the two-party system in the United States is that we have this issue mostly with PACs being able to raise so much money. And that was like that Citizens United decision that happened. I forgot what year that the Supreme Court went ahead and said that, oh, you can raise as much money as possible without oversight when it comes and use this to run people. And the thing about it is that they use these rules to run people not only in the federal government, but in state governments and also municipalities, and now even in school boards. And so we have like this whole thing where, and I know that TYT talks about it a lot. You have like the crazy GOP and you have the establishment Democrats, because you may even have like, you know, more leftist Democrats that are in the party, but they get silenced because you have establishment Democrats that have been in office for a very long time, and they have basically put their politics like center right. Just saying, well, we're moderates. I said, well, you know, we don't have moderate problems, right? So I think that, yeah, thanks, Maya. Maya said that Citizens United was in 2010. I think that's correct. Right on Obama. Anywho, so I think that the issue that we have to have is, and I'm really, I'm more of a person that we need a change in some amendments when it comes to the Constitution that actually allows other political parties to actually have a footing, because like when we first started the United States, it was a multiple party system, kind of like what you would see in like some areas of different parliamentary bodies in the world. And then after a while, like that particular thing got fizzled out, and then we ended up with a two-party system. Especially after the Civil War between the Democrats and the Republicans. And a lot of times they, depending on where the ties are, they just like switch back and forth. And so we don't ever really get like transformative policies the way that we need to. And I know that the way that we can is that we do need to have other people that are willing to put their hat in the fray that says, I'm not Democrat, I'm not Republican, I'm this, or I'm this, or I'm this, and then let them debate it out so that we can actually get real change. But because like that money situation is just so bad, especially when we look at the House and Senate offices, the office of the president and things of that nature, that, you know, it's they're just too locked up. I think that most of the things that's going to happen is that this is going to have to be a grassroots thing from the people, from the ground up, and that we have to be more intentional with who we are running in the local elections. And try to get more people who may be of the Green Party or maybe of this party or that party, so that we can actually have more representation of people's voices. Because like right now, especially on the federal level, those people are not talking to any of us.
Yeah, so not try to create new parties or reinforce the other parties, but try to run as non-partisan. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, even not just nonpartisan, or even like, you know, we have multiple parties here. It's just that they need to be able to have like even playing field. But the thing about it is that because we have these laws that are enacted right now, and a lot of it happened because of the damn Supreme Court, that they were, you know, that these establishment parties have been able to amass so much money that they are able to silence other party people who are running for office. I mean, like, people don't know, if you look at a ballot, especially during a presidential election, that there are other choices. Matter of fact, I had this debate about a few years ago on another channel about, well, if you don't vote for Biden, that's a vote for Trump. And I said, well, I don't like Biden either. So what am I going to do? You know, and the thing about it is that as much as I can't stand Trump, I knew the really bad history of Biden when he was in the Senate. And I knew also he was losing the primary, but you had some little trickery from other establishment Democrats that was able to kind of turn the tides for him. And and even though I'm not like a big fan of Bernie, I think that his policies are way more progressive than any of those two, and they completely shut him out. And there should be something that's done about that in order to actually have proper representation of the people. And the way it's so locked up right now, it's very difficult to do that.
Yeah, I think primaries should go away. Because that's one of the major issues I see right now in the politics in the US. It's that basically the one who has the most money gets the nomination of the party, and then the other ones just have to shut up. And so, yeah, I think that would be the first step, in my opinion.
And also getting rid of the Electoral College. It's a racist institution.
Yeah.
Point blank, period, full stop.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that any person that is running should run on based on popularity alone. And I get that, we wanted to make it a bit more even depending on population for different states, and that's fine, but at the same time, we have seen either people lose the popularity vote, but the electoral votes were there for them, and they were able to take office, and it was really terrible for our country. So I need that institution to completely go away. It's unnecessary. I mean, the whole thing was like the primary bullshit answer for setting up an electoral college in the first place is that we're too ignorant. Americans are too ignorant in order for us to be able to pick who we want to represent us in government. Well, guess what? A lot of us are literate now, last time I checked. So we're able to read a ballot and we can pick who we want to actually represent us. We don't need some other, and sometimes like them, whoever that they have represented people like in the electoral college, I think that they're duller to them damn selves. So I don't want them to be picking nobody for me.
Yeah, I think so. I'm not a specialist in American politics, but I think that the mixture between the equal representation in the Senate, meaning 2 senators per state, and the proportionality in the House, I think that's enough to balance things out enough to not need the electoral college.
Yeah, I agree. I agree that I don't that's what I'm saying. Like, if the way that our government has set up this tricameral, even though it's a bicameral Congress, but it's a tricameral Senate, tricameral government, that we have like equal distribution of powers between the judiciary branch, the executive branch, and also the congressional branch, or the legislative branch. So there is no reason that we actually have to have like additional institution to drive where the executive branch actually lies. I wanted to pull up this particular comment, and we just talking from Aaron.
But we are so interesting. So why wouldn't people like to hear us talking?
Exactly. We just talking. We just saying things. But Aaron says, I'll disagree with Cynthia on this point. Biden is a direct result of Stacey Abrams' political genius. History books should give her that win. Now, okay. So, 2 things. And I know that he's talking specifically about what happened in Georgia. Now, I applaud Stacey Abrams' efforts in order to galvanize people to register to vote, especially when the governor, I think his name is Brian Kemp, took over 50,000 people off of the voters' rolls when he was running for governor against her, because he was also Secretary of State at that time. And I'm like, again, where are these regulations? Where is these oversights? He should not have ever been able to do that because he's a candidate, right? But anywho, so I applaud her efforts as far as like being able to register people to vote and to kind of flip Georgia, I guess. But what I have an issue with is that in order for Biden to become the front runner in the first place, there was some, some background issues, background deals that was going on. And part of that was, Obama making phone calls saying that my man Biden needs to, be the president. He's the only one who can he's the only one who can beat Trump, which I don't agree with. I think that there were other stronger candidates that were just able to beat Trump as well. Also, too, there was that whole issue with South Carolina, because that's where Biden got his momentum. Because like again, remember, he was losing the primary, and all of a sudden, I call him Fish Fry Clyburn came in and pulled rank and was able to swing that state for him. So that was able to give him the votes that he needed in order to keep his campaign alive. And then next thing you know, because of different phone calls that was going on in the background, there was different candidates that was just dropping off like flies. Like Elizabeth Warren dropped out, Kamala Harris dropped out. I think Marianne Williamson dropped out. It was a bunch of them that was just dropping like left and right. The only one that stayed in there to the end was Bernie Sanders. That he was the only one. And then to be honest, I think that he could have beat Trump. I mean, Bernie is pretty popular with young people. And like I said, I'm not that huge of a fan because, he says some things to me like on the campaign triangle, he was asking about certain policies that I felt was like bullshit, but whatever. But at the same time, I think that the popularity of Trump was really bad, even though like you had like them crazy MAGA people, but I think that he could have beat him. But like I said, there was all that Democratic governmental trickery that was going on in the background is basically what propelled him to go forward. Okay, wait, hold on. Oh, you're clarifying. Okay, cool. You're talking about the orchestrating statewide judicial rulings that allow mail-in voting where it usually wouldn't be allowed, given more equitable ballot access. I don't have any problem with that. I think that we should expand mail-in voting. I don't have a problem with that at all. I mean, I know specifically in the United States we have an issue with voting. There's a lot of like disenfranchisement that's going on. Even remember when Trump was talking to the governor and the state board elections in Georgia to try to make them flip as far as like who they were calling the race for it was either him or Biden, and that was like totally illegal. I still don't understand why he is not in jail, but whatever. But we have issues like we mentioned earlier about gerrymandering and redrawing districts in certain key areas that maybe like vote that will probably be a little bit more socialistic, left-leaning than others in order to keep people in power. We also had the gutting of the Voters' Rights Act in 2013 by the Supreme Court, and we also did have mail-in ballots be messed with. And if anybody could remember back in 2000. The issue that we had with the hanging Chad in Florida always fucking somebody up, because of antiquated voting machines and things of that nature, that we weren't able to accurately count the votes in that particular area. Yeah, we have a huge issue with voting. It's not voters fraud, it's a voter disenfranchisement, and that's something that needs to be fixed.
Yeah, that's the next point I was going to talk about. It's in pretty much every European countries, that just doesn't exist. I mean, as soon as you have your ID card, you're able to vote, and no one can take that away. Even people in prison, I know it's the case in France and Belgium, but they can vote without any issue. Like this idea that some some people don't have the right to vote,
Yeah.
it's totally alien in Europe,
Yeah.
and even gerrymandering, it's not even a thing. It doesn't exist.
Hmm.
Like the districts are they are equated to the structure of the country
Hmm.
and how cities are built, etc. And so that never moves. It's just the same map as the political map, and so yeah. When I discovered that a few years ago, I just I just don't understand. And historically, I get where it comes from,
Hmm.
but I don't understand. Well, yeah, I do understand why it doesn't move, because voting is a state right,
Hmm.
state prerogative, and that's probably why it will never change, right?
Yeah, I think that I
Yeah,
need that to not be a thing. I need to be voting needs to be a
yeah,
federal thing, because
yeah.
states, depending on where you are, they fucking up all the time. We have questions that we need to get to before we
Yeah.
wrap this bad boy up. Okay, so let's go to the first one. I think this is mostly for you, from Aaron. What role does heritage or lineage play in present day crimes?
I Can you specify the scope of the question, please, Aaron? Because I don't understand where you're going with this.
Okay, so while Aaron comes up with the qualifier, let's go to Dean Kruger. Hey, Dean, all the way in essay. I wonder what the origin of this exceptionalist view is. Is there a difference between patriotism and exceptionalism?
So first, there's a difference between patriotism and nationalism.
Hmm.
And I
Exceptionalism. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no. I mean, there's a difference between patriotism and
Nationalism. Yes.
nationalism. I mean,
Okay.
patriotism is just you love your country, and nationalism is you think that your country is better. So exceptionalism is, in my opinion, part of nationalism.
Hmm.
Uh, then there is the cultural exceptionalism, which is spread by politics, by TV, by everything else, and that feeds into this exceptionalism. You can think that the U.S. is the greatest country on earth without being nationalist.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you're a nationalist, you will believe that your country is the best country on the planet.
It's
So
kind of like that line that was in the head of state, God bless America and no place else.
yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
does that answer your question, Jean?
Let's just say it does. Aaron has qualified his question,
Yeah,
but thank you
does
for your question.
hereditary title still make a difference?
Yeah.
Um, no, there is. I, I really don't know what you're talking about, because there is no hereditary title. I mean, the bourgeoisie, as we call it, is just almost doesn't exist anymore.
Hmm.
We still have some families, and uh, we still even have one family that it descends from the last king we had, and they're still existing, and they still think that maybe one day they could pretend to something. But
They think they can go back into power again. They think that they can
yeah,
be go back to being the king of France, like
yes,
Louis.
we still have a very few, but we still have some royalists.
Hmm.
But other than that, no. There is no. Uh, we are a basic capitalist and social country as everyone else in Europe. There is no nothing like it was even 100 years ago.
Mm. Hmm. 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 Yeah. Well, I guess that's one thing that we could say. We can give it up for short stuff. i.e.
Yeah.
Napoleon for helping out.
Like short, like without a head, for example.
Yeah. All with their heads, let them eat cake. Okay.
So just one remark that
Sure.
idea that Napoleon was short, it's a myth.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was actually taller than the average for his time, but
Oh, okay. Why does
yeah,
people keep on saying that he's not? That's where we get like that whole
it's-
idea of Napoleon complex.
yes, yes, and this idea that he's always depicted with his hand in his jacket
Yeah.
because he supposedly had stomach issues.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's not ideas of grandeur. It's just he had
he needed some Pepto Bismol, is basically what you're
yes,
saying. Okay, cool,
yeah.
cool. We learned. See, everybody now has a wrinkle in their brain concerning Napoleon. Okay, let's go on to the next question from Hidden Tech Gems. Okay, do you think we could combat American exceptionalism by educating the public about our downfalls and flaws? Or do you think that those that subscribe to exceptionalism will ignore it? Okay, I guess because I'm an American, I should start. Uh, that's a good question. I will have to say that education has always been a good motive or vehicle rather to help people change their minds. And a lot of it is because, especially when you teach proper history, it's kind of like that whole euphemism, like, if you don't know where you've been, you don't know where you're going. I know that, I don't know if that's like an African proverb or something like that, but I know I've heard it a lot growing up. And the reason why it's so important to teach, history and to teach where our missteps were, and in hopes that when the next generation comes around, that they don't repeat those same steps. One of the things that we had in mass, specifically in the United States, is the whole issue with revisionist history in our public schools at the grade levels. So you had the United Daughters of the Revolution and the Daughters of the Confederacy actually come in and change textbooks, specifically in the South, that would teach this history that just did not exist. I remember watching a program where they were pulling some of these textbooks that were still in schools in the modern era, where it talked about like slavery was not as bad as it was espoused to be. Slaves were happy. Slavery was not the primary reason why even the United States became an economic world power. So, when we start teaching things like this, then it gives people an excuse to actually hold on to ideas and that are basically lies. So I think that teaching is a good way to kind of say that, hey, guess what? You're not that special, and we had a very sordid past. But knowing this history, we can probably get better as a body, as a people. What do you think, Cindy?
I agree with you that education is 99% of the time the solution.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is in the current climate where CRT is seen as we're not going to teach them to hate their country.
Right.
How would you teach children that their country is not the best on the planet?
Yeah, that's the issue that I'm having as well, and that's the reason why I'm saying like we should be more apt to change that. For the simple fact of the matter is that when like Texas has changed slavery to say involuntary relocation, when Florida just wants to completely ignore all what happened because it's going to make white kids feel bad, and we're seeing like a lot of these different laws that are affecting the curriculum that's the uphill battle. We can never get to getting past exceptionalism if we don't accept the darkness of our past, and also accept that we're not exceptional. And a lot of that comes from education. But I mean, you remember, you even got like some of these people that are making these rules saying that if you go to college, they're going to teach you to be woke, so don't go. It's kind of like that whole thing about like, we want to keep you as dumb as possible for the rest of your life in order for you just to follow what we say. And I know that sounds like conspiracy theory, but I mean, but shit, when you see it actually happening in the body politic, what do you do? So, that's why I'm saying that we really need to charge in like this next generation to actually run for offices, run to who have like contrary ideas to this that's being espoused now, in order to change that narrative. Because if we don't, we're gonna be messed up even more.
Yeah, regardless of ideas and parties, young people need to do what the Republicans started doing 50 years ago. Setting a course and then do everything they can to change it at the local level first.
Yep, I agree. All politics are local, people. And yes, the views that Cynthia and Cindy are expressing are not necessarily the views of Skeptic Haven.
Obviously.
Obviously. All right, so we got 2 more questions and then we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Next one is from also Hidden Tech Gems. Do you think if we stop spending money at the companies that support opposing parties will help to create a change in the opposing party's opinions or the company's opinions? I mean, it worked for the Montgomery Boys boycott, but I don't know how that would function today, only because a lot of these companies that may align with like these problematic ideas are big suppliers of the things that we need as a population. So I will have to put a big I don't know into that one. What do you think, Cindy?
I think that I'm not sure there is a need for that actually right now, because most big companies have understood already that being woke is financially beneficial for them.
Oh yeah.
And that's why there is so much outcry from conservatives, like M&Ms, like Bud Light, like everything.
Yeah.
Companies have realized that putting rainbows on their wrappers or trans people in their ads, that helps them financially.
Yeah.
So I think it's one possibly the only best positive side of capitalism. It's that this in this case it will incite companies to shift.
Yeah.
Because it will be profitable for them.
Yeah. I mean, like, even if Nike had like that big old outcry back in 2018 because they put Colin Kaepernick inside their ad, when after he did the whole kneeling protest police violence against Black people, people started burning shoes and all this other stuff. If you really want to see something, y'all check out the nonprofits last week when I did a whole rant about this. I mean, it was epic. I would have to say it was quite epic. But yeah, I would agree with that, Cindy. I think that companies now are seeing that being more diverse in their advertisement and who they're reaching out to is financially more. What's the word I'm looking for? It's more. It helps their bottom. It's more profitable, right? It helps their bottom line a lot better than being a dipshit. So
yeah, and I think that Bree also has a point when they say we've got so many de facto monopolies in the US that such boycotts could be pretty harmful and would only be able to be done by people of means. I think there's truth in that, and also maybe it might not be possible because like those who boycotted Bud Light, they didn't realize that almost all the beers are owned by the same company.
Yeah.
So if you like beer, well, you don't have much choice.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, Anheuser-Busch owns a lot of different brands. Okay. All right, guys, we got one more question and then we're going to go ahead and wrap up. This is from Danny Rev. How much weight do evangelical Christians have in American exceptionalism? Well, even though like the evangelical Christians are a minority group, as we discussed earlier, you even said it earlier today, Cindy, when you were on the nonprofits, that they are definitely in influencing law, and their ideologies are being pushed. We have this organization called the NACL, which is the National Christian League of National Christian Lawmakers or something like that. No, the National Association of Christian Lawmakers. That's what it's called. And it's ran by a former congressperson from Arkansas named Jason Rayford. And their whole goal is to push as many laws as possible on the local level that actually prop up the ideology of Christian evangelical Christians or Christian nationalism, or Christofascists, as Cindy would say. So they only started in 2020, but they've already been very successful because they are aligning themselves with people who are already have been elected to say, okay, yeah, you're elected now, so let's go ahead and get you to do X, Y, and Z. I mean, that's why we had, that whole thing that happened in Missouri about gender affirming care being almost erased, done. I believe that Sarah Huckabee passed some really shitty law in her state that she's governor with, and she worked directly with Jason Rayford in order for that to happen. And a lot of this idea of them pushing these really problematic laws is because they feel that, one, America is a Christian nation and God has blessed this nation to be what it is. And that, in my opinion, does drive this idea of exceptionalism. So I think that it has a huge weight in the American exceptionalism subject matter. Now, is it everything? I don't think so. I think that there's other issues that we have to discuss as well, especially like when it comes to history. But I think it's a big part of it. But I know that even with our country becoming more secular, especially when you have like more younger people that are coming up that don't go to church, don't believe, or they're still questioning, I think that that's going to erode over time, but it's going to take some time because these people are entrenched. Cindy?
Yeah, it's hard to say because the political, religious, and cultural aspects of American exceptionalism, they are intertwined. Like, for example, the religious part that you mentioned, that in God we trust and all that thing, it's been propped up as a political agenda in the first place because it was to fight communism.
Right.
So religion was a tool for political gain. And
has been for a very long time.
Yes, and vice versa as well. But so measuring which part of American exceptionalism is religious and which part is cultural and which part is politic, it's a bit tricky because they're all so much linked to each other.
Sure. Yeah, that is very, 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 very true. Okay, well, we've been talking for a while, Cindy, and
yes.
But I think that we talked a lot about a good array of topics and I would say that we did a pretty decent job. What do you think?
For first time, I would say yes, we did a terrific job, I think.
I agree.
Of course you do.
What when you say something right, of course I'm gonna agree. I agree.
No.
Oh my goodness.
Honestly, yeah, I hope this show will get more colors over time. I know it's hard um, right now because we only had two, sorry, and yeah, we all need to work on that. But yeah, we still can have interesting discussions. We can still answer the public questions, and it's still a way to engage with people.
Yeah, I agree. But this particular platform on Skeptic Haven is fairly new, and I think that it will get better as time goes on. Part of what you can do, dear audience, is to share these videos. Make sure you like and subscribe, and also encourage people to do so as well. And also, let's keep these conversations going. I know that Skeptic Haven's a Facebook page is pretty active. We do have a Twitter account as well that you can engage with, and also encourage people when we have different topics that come out to please call so we can talk about them. Conversation and discourse is always a very good thing. It's one of the things that I'm very much so a fan of. So we just want to say before we sign off, thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure, again, like, subscribe, ring the bell for notifications, all that other great stuff. And if you like what you hear and if you want to see us do more, consider becoming a patron. You go to patreon.com/skeptichaven and you too can actually support this channel. And we also want to thank our patrons that we have right now: Eric Ozols, Tara S. Ryan, Deneen Murphy, Dan D., Michael Wiseman, Kathy Cotton, Cindy Plaza, Sunny Shell, Aaron Coalson, and Phil Calderone. And before we go, I think that if it's okay, we're going to chill a little bit. So, if you want a little bit more, Cindy, where can they find you?
Well, lately it's been only on Skeptic Haven and every once in a while on the nonprofits. My personal channel is a bit on the sleeping side right now. But yeah, I would also like to thank very, very much the producers, because this show is very much a lot of work to
Yes.
to put on. So
Shout
thank
out
you.
to the crew. Yes,
Yeah.
shout out to the crew. You guys rock. Wes, Phil, Aaron, all of you guys are wonderful, even courageous. Thank you, Kat the Humanist. All of you guys are absolute wonderful, wonderful people. We really thank you for keeping this going, because yes, it's a lot. Listen, I got a channel too, and I hardly put any content up on it because it's a lot trying to run a channel, to get content out, and even do videos and edit them so that they can look good. Yeah, it's a lot.
So how about you, Cynthia? Where can people find you?
Yes, well, you can check me out also on the nonprofits. I'm a producer there as well, and I happen to be on pretty often. I'm also a contributor host on this channel as well, especially on Women Atheists Unload, and hopefully, we can be able to do these call-in shows more often. I actually love doing them, and it's been a minute since I've been on a call-in show, so I would love to do this more often as well. I have some speaking engagements that are coming up as well. I know that I have an engagement with Santa Clara University. Also, will be at the Motor City Black Age Comic Con in Detroit in June. I will also be at the Better Conference in August. I will also do Houston Oasis and in talks with doing the Secular Student Alliance, their conference as well. I think I'll be on a panel with other content creators, and also BNC Con. You guys, if you want to do a fabulous cruise and also get some fabulous information, I will be a speaker there as well. That's happening between November 4th to the 13th. So I have a link tree with this basically link tree at Cam Glamming. So if you happen to go there, you can see all of my links and where I be.
Well, thank you for being here tonight. It's almost 4 a.m. here.
Go to bed,
so
Cindy.
It's tonight. But yeah, I really don't regret being here. I would love to do more calling shows. So yeah, it was really fun to talk with you today, and hopefully we do that again.
Yes.
We see each other in almost every show anyway.
Yeah, so, but it's always good to be on a show with you, Cindy. You're one of my favorite people.
Thanks. Yes, same to you. I love talking to you. So thanks everyone in the chat for your participation. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the comments. And we will see you next week. Bye.
See you next week.
This is Skeptic Haven. Let's talk.